Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the GCSAA podcast, presented in partnership with our friends from Enview. I'm Scott Hollister, the editor-in-chief of GCSAA's Golf Course Management Magazine, and I'm glad you could join us for episode 57 of the podcast. Well, if you've spent any time recently on Superintendent Twitter, I can't bring myself to calling it Superintendent X, at least not yet, but or your regular visitor to our awesome website, gcmonline.com, you've almost certainly seen mentions of Seven Canyons Golf Club down in Sedona, Arizona, and the war they've been waging against Javelinas that have viewed parts of the golf course there as an all-you-can-eat buffet. What started as a simple video of the damage caused by these javelinas posted to Twitter has gone viral and then some. The video has been viewed more than 33 million times, and the story has been picked up internationally by everyone from Golf Digest to CNN to The Guardian. So on this episode, we talk with the turf professionals at the center of this story, Emily Casey and Andy Huber. Emily is the assistant superintendent at Seven Canyons, who first shared that video on Twitter, and Andy is her boss, the director of agronomy at the club. We talk with them about what this media storm has been like, how they've managed it all, and more practically, how the team there deals with the damage caused by these javelinas, from prevention to repair, and where things stand today, just about 1 month after the video first went viral. Really enjoyed chatting with both of them, and I think you'll enjoy the conversation too. It's Emily Casey and Andy Huber from Seven Canyons Golf Club on this episode of the GCSAA podcast. Quick reminder that in addition to the audio version of the podcast that you can find on all your favorite podcast platforms, you can also discover video versions on GCSAA's YouTube channel and on GCSAA TV. This episode, for example, will feature the original video Emily shared on Twitter, in addition to some additional photos and video that she snapped since then. So you can check those out on YouTube and GCSAA TV. And with that, let's go. This is episode 57 of the GCSAA podcast, featuring Emily Casey and Andy Huber. Well, we are honored today. I don't know. This might be the biggest social media celebrities that have ever graced the GCSAA podcast. And Andy, I don't know if you count yourself in that, or you're just pushing all that off onto Emily or not. But for those in our business who have any sort of social media presence, this story will not be a foreign one to you, because as we've chronicled in GCM and on GCM Online, and plenty of other people have chronicled in one way or another. This is a story that took off, and I'm very happy to have Andy Huber and Emily Casey. Andy's the director of agronomy at Seven Canyons Golf Club in Sedona, Arizona. Emily, an assistant superintendent there, and things kind of you guys have been dealing with a particular problem that we will obviously get into, and Emily, your videos of said problem took off unlike anything. And I'm not really being facetious. I think I would imagine. I think at last check you had 33 million views of that video. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was last time I looked.
Well, I'm a little jealous as someone who has this social media account for GCM. I posted a video several years ago of a autonomous fairway mower that Deere was playing with, and I think it got like 40,000 views, and we were like high-fiving around the office when that took off. So this is something else. But anyway, for those who are not aware of the story, and I think what I'm going to start with, because I want you guys to kind of tell the story from your perspective, and that was one of the reasons I was pleased you guys would do this, is to kind of give you a little more openness, a little more room to kind of tell what this experience has been like for you, because Emily's video created quite a stir on social media. And that probably just went on top of the problems and the challenges that you guys had just to face in managing the golf course under those conditions and repairing the damage that was created. But we will get all into that. So I will let either one of you can kind of take this one, but what we're talking about is damage that was created by javelinas on your golf course. And one morning, Emily, as she took a drive around the golf course, chronicled some of this damage, and that is what took off. So exactly, and I know you're not biologist by any stretch of the imagination, but you probably know more than most. What is a javelina?
A lot of people think it's in the pig family, and they do resemble those a lot. I mean, look at their nose. I mean, it's pretty. That would be the obvious, family you would think they'd be part of, but they're part of the pickerel family. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, but they are different. So a little different than kind of the wild boars that you see in the Southeast and then Texas, even though the javelina, the range of their habitat does head toward Texas. So it's been pretty much every community town I've lived in Arizona, other than Flagstaff, we have seen them in our neighborhoods and dealt with them where we lived, and but nothing to this extent on the golf course. These numbers and this damage.
Emily, you're in year 2, is that correct? At Seven Canyons.
Yeah.
Had you had any exposure to anything like this before you came to the Seven Canyons?
Well, I'm from the East Coast, so I'd never heard of a javelina. And then I live in Flagstaff. My last course was in Flag, so we didn't have them there either. Last year, I think they tore up a really small amount of like one fairway, and that was it. So I didn't really think anything of it. So no, prior to late August, early September, I had never seen anything like this.
Are they aggressive? Are they mainly nocturnal? Do you see them during the day, and are they coming after you, or what are their habits like?
I mean, as it's started to get colder at night, they've been more active during the day, and I think they're starting to get a little more aggressive with us because we don't want them there, but they want to be there. So I mean, I've been chased, and they bark at you. They're
Really?
Yeah, they're mean, and they have like self-sharpening teeth. So like they bite you. Not a good time.
Yeah.
Oh. No, that is no good. Well, Andy, I'll let you kind of set the stage. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the golf course? You're located in Sedona, but more maybe just your direct surroundings there and what you've dealt with before this most recent outbreak, what you've dealt with when it comes to javelinas and their little adventures on the golf course.
Yeah, so I mean, in Wickenburg, Arizona, Scottsdale, Prescott, we would see them, and they didn't do a whole lot of damage at those other properties, but the potential was there. So, it's very critical in our state because of the warm climate. Know the life cycle of your typical turf pests. European and masked chafer. The chafer, beetle, grub is what we're usually the most afraid of, right? So that's a juicy white grub food source for these guys. So I had known about this property before I worked here, and not only is it a high pressure with turf disease, also the grubs we're kind of we're at 4,600 feet, so noticeably lower than Flagstaff, but noticeably higher than Scottsdale and the Valley, Phoenix Metro. So we tried to set our program before we even started, hit the late A months for our 2 insecticide applications. So late April and late August, and that typically puts a club or a property in great shape. So we did that in 2022, my first year here, and thought, next problem, moving along, we had almost no issues at all. Knowing that, I had heard from members and from Dave Bisbee, our GM, he had said that there have been some javelina problems in the past. He's been here 21 years in total, and he's probably seen, maybe never to this level, but he's seen something similar, always in the fall, 3 or 4 other times. Typically, he has tied that back to a very dry year. And although we had a record, snowfall in Flagstaff and last year, and really across the state, last year was amazing with moisture. The monsoon season typically kicks off in the high country in Arizona around July 4th weekend. It was starting in Sedona in late June last year, and it really never let up. We had beautiful rain well into September of 22. Completely different situation this year. Came out of a wet winter. We had plenty of snow even at this elevation. This club is open unless we're under snow. It's a year-round club around snow, which is not most years, maybe 10, 12 days. I think we had 25 days of snow closure last year. So once that moisture kind of ended in April 23, plus or minus, we were extremely dry, very little monsoon. I think our last quarter inch measured rain was about August 15th. And so we have had virtually nothing since then. So time that with when the javelina are typically loading up on protein to kind of get ready for the winter, and dry surroundings. It's a pretty small property, relatively speaking. I mean, we're only 250 acres, and it's national forest all the way around the property. Beautiful national forest. So dry surroundings, and the wildlife, they migrate to the golf course for that moisture.
So, Emily, you stated this. This kind of your first experience with them. You guys were dealing with this problem. The javelinas were coming in out of the forest in search of food. And I think you both noted in one, at least I read in one way or that you really weren't dealing as much with grubs, but maybe you were thinking it was earthworms or things like that because you had treated and prepared for that. Kind of walk us through the morning. So this was an ongoing problem. And the interesting thing, and maybe it's just interesting to me, is that as this story was breaking, Andy, you were in Lawrence for the chapter delegates meeting. It was just by complete, and myself and some of our media people were seeing this. It was taking off. We were like, well, boy, we need to offer support on one hand, but also we're interested in the story for the magazine on another hand. And it just so happened that Andy was sitting 2 floors below us at that very moment when this was all going on. So we had a nice intersection of that, but maybe just kind of walk us through the day that you took the video, what you saw, what prompted you to pull out your phone, and how that all went for you.
Well, I mean, so if you look back on my Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, you'll see that like since late August, I've been posting pictures and videos of this exact stuff. But usually it's like just like one hole. I just kind of like show the tees that I'm working on and that they got torn up around in the rough. But the morning I was just kind of driving around and I was like, you know what? It's everywhere today. I'm just going to take a video so that everyone sees that like this is what's happening. I mean, I've been doing it for weeks, so I didn't really think anything of it. I just drove around and 10 minutes to make a video, like put it all together on, I think I used like Instagram Reels to just make the video. And I mean, it's terrible quality. Like if you really watch that video, it is awful. And it's really loud, it's shaky, it's sped up, but it makes everything look so bad. Like it looks like the entire course is gone, but that's really less than 5% of the course. Like it's not what everyone thinks.
Well, folks who might be there will be a YouTube version of this, and I'm hoping to get that video from you so we can share that right as you're talking here, so people, if they're listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, they can see what we're talking about. And I'm again certain that a large percentage of our listeners are going to be super aware of this. So you posted, I'm sure you posted it, didn't think much about it, went about your day. When did you realize, what triggered you and said, hey, this thing is kind of going crazy?
I posted it on a Sunday, I think.
Sunday
evening, like, I don't know, 5, 6 o'clock. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh my God, that's got like 1 million views. And I wake up really early, so didn't really think anything about it. And I get to work and I'm like telling Andy, and I was like, I'm really sorry. Like it's got like 2 million views. I don't understand.
Well, when she says early, she gets up at about 2 and she's in the gym by, I think, 2:30, 2:45. Pretty regularly, very disciplined in that, right? So we wake up early as superintendents and as crew, but Emily beats us all to get to the gym. Wow. So yeah, so when she said it was probably at 1 million or 2, that was
2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So I get in here and Andy and I are kind of chatting, and he was about to leave for Lawrence, and jokingly was just like, oh yeah, when you hit 10 million views, let me know. And I was like, yeah, okay. Andy's plane hadn't landed and it was at like 15 million views. And I was like, all right, well, we surpassed your goal.
So you felt like you could reach out to him at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely apologized like 900 times, especially to like the GM, because it just blew up. And like, I never would have thought that that video would have gone viral and that people would have been calling in with questions and all kinds of other things to say.
Did you know, because at some point Golf Digest picked it up, and this is what happens in the social media age, is that and I'm certain you didn't hear from Golf Digest or The Guardian or CNN or any of
Well,
these.
if I had, they wouldn't have called me a boy or the superintendent. So it gave me a nice promotion, but
Well, you did. And you threw them off by going by M on
a little bit of anonymity in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's probably wise. But so is that what really set it off? Because among obviously in our industry there would be, I'm sure people were seeing it on their timelines, but we're relatively niche in terms of our market. So I believe that was the first time when I saw that Golf Digest had picked it up, and they literally just shared what you had tweeted.
I think it was like Zyre Golf and Breezy on Instagram, because I posted it in my Instagram story as well and like tagged like the Real Turf Crew and Turf Today, and they had shared it, and then Breezy like posted it, and so did Zyre, and they have 6 million followers.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a big part of it. And then I mean, Turf Twitter is not huge, but there are a lot of superintendents and assistants and stuff that are on Twitter. So once people start commenting and talking, it kind of just keeps going and everyone keeps seeing it. But I did turn off comments after a while because everyone was just fighting.
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna mention that at first you had, I mean, the interaction on Twitter that I saw was you were getting some good questions from others in the turf industry. It was the kind of the normal exchange of ideas, which happens a lot, which I think is probably one of the best parts about turf Twitter, is because it is a sounding board. And if you're having a problem or a challenge, it does give you another avenue to go out and maybe find someone who's been through that and can offer solutions or suggestions on ways to approach it. And that is, I think, one of the problems that you both deal with. You can maybe both kind of comment on this. The what you have at your disposal to dissuade, control, take control of these javelinas is pretty limited, isn't it, Andy?
Pretty limited. I mean, so in the state of Arizona, they are treated just as an elk or deer or any other big game would be. So they're big game. The wildlife in the state of Arizona is owned by the citizens of Arizona. So, but those are a couple of factors right there that right off the bat, you're limited. So, even though it's not a huge property, I think our perimeter is 23,500 total linear feet. We have fenced 10,000 feet of that so far. It's not an elaborate fence. It's not very tall. It's, these things aren't, although we've seen them jump a little bit.
I've seen them jump. I did not believe it till I saw it.
Yeah. So, but we do need to work on that. We've been working with Game and Fish. Once this video went viral, I've been saying they've got a little more skin in the game, and right. They know that there are a lot of people watching. So we do need to be, do everything by the law, and we need to, kind of watch our image, and we don't want to have any missteps here. We want to do it the right way, but so that is taking a little bit longer, but it's still the right way to go.
And I think initially, as I mentioned, people in the comments they were either asking you questions or they were making suggestions, and it was really earnest, and it was good stuff from a lot of your colleagues, our colleagues from all over the country. And there's people that are curious like me, who in Kansas, I will say, we don't have a very big, you might see an armadillo now and again, but we don't have a javelina population in the sunflower state. So there's a curiosity factor there for a lot of people as well. But as you mentioned, Em, you turned off your comments because there started to be the kind of the anti-golf action that moved in, and just as the video spread more and more, there was more and more people from outside the industry who just didn't understand, don't want to understand, frankly, what it is you both do, what happens in golf course management. Were you surprised by that when things kind of took that weird turn?
I mean, honestly, yes. I'm fairly new to the golf industry. I've been in golf for about 3 years, and I'd never really had a problem with it, and I didn't realize so many people did. I had no idea that people had such an issue with golf courses. And really until I started at Penn State. We talked about it in one of my classes. Um, so I mean, every other time I've posted on Twitter, it's just been turf Twitter. Like I talked to other assistants, superintendents, and right when people kind of started arguing with each other, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I should shut this down right now because I don't want people coming here. I mean, we're a private property. They can't just walk in, but like, you never know. And everyone's got a fake name and they're hiding behind their keyboards. And
Right.
it went to the dark side for a while. So I also went dark for a while.
Well, you made the right move with that and shutting that down. Andy, by this point, you're again, we mentioned earlier, you're in Lawrence with me. And what was the reaction from the club? I know when you and I spoke in Lawrence that you had, there was some people they were kind of enjoying the notoriety that the club was getting, and others maybe not so much. But what was the overall reaction that you were hearing from your members and from the folks that work with you at the club?
Yeah, so that the Monday would have been the day after she posted the video, and then I flew out. Well, that was the last day I was into work because I had to catch a super early flight to get from Phoenix to Kansas City. So, you know, Emily was up Tuesday and got the crew going, and so we were talking and texting, and at first it was kind of when it kind of caught flames, we were we need to do some damage control here, but that was kind of talking with Dave, our GM. We didn't really know what to think of it. We were a little bit concerned, and then by a couple of days later, we're now owned by 4 members who bought the club last year in March of 2022. So the property and the club took a very different direction at that time, and it's been great. Every dollar invested in this property is, it is so well worth it. I mean, if you can see some of the surroundings at some point, there's just a unmatched views in any direction, anywhere I've ever worked. But so the owners got together, owners/members, and they said, hey, let's roll with this. Again, need to be smart about it, but it's amazing. If people haven't visited the Sedona area, or even if they have, it's not in Sedona. It's northwest of town. It's at the end of what used to be a dirt road that dead ends to the gates. There are pink Jeep tours all around in the area. In fact, there's a hill within the property that looks over the whole course called Rachel's Knoll, and that goes back to previous family ownership of this land in this area that was deeded, and it still remains open to the public if they are in a pink Jeep tour type situation. So we let them in, and again, that's why we do have other people visiting the property. They're supposed to go straight from the gatehouse to Rachel's Knoll and back. So we want to do everything right here and make sure that there aren't any loose cameras or anything like that catching anything otherwise. So
yeah,
so far it's going great. We've had no problems.
Like the members, I think, kind of enjoy it now. I think they think it's kind of funny that like their friends from all over the world are like, "Oh my gosh, I saw your golf course on the news."
Yeah, we have,
and I do think that is neat. I think that, and I think you're taking the right tact with that, and the club and your members are as well. Is just view it as a positive. It's notoriety, and I sense you both feel comfortable that you're doing the right things and trying to manage this problem, repair this problem. So there's nothing necessarily to hide other than you want to just be cautious of people who don't really care if you're doing the right thing or not. They just want to make a point. And so I mean that's I think that's probably the best way to handle all that.
Yeah, I mean, we've had plenty of members. I mean, they've been very supportive. They feel bad for our team. We feel bad for our team to do the same repairs over and over. And we have had the most mild, warm fall in a long time. So typically, I mean, I've hunted javelina before, not with any success. We go out in the desert or the lower elevation forest and we hardly see anything. So what I see happening in the last 15, 20 years in the state is the javelina population continues to grow in towns like Prescott, Sedona, Phoenix Metro, and more trash cans getting dumped over. These things literally know the day of the week trash gets picked up. Trash trash cans get rolled to the curb, trash cans get knocked over all the way down the street. And it's a problem in Sedona. So Game and Fish knows that. They've had to relocate a specific herd from what they call Uptown Sedona. I mean, you got tourists from all over the world to visit Sedona, and you don't want too much animal human interaction.
Well, and like I think that was everyone's big issue was we took over the javelina's habitat, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is that javelina will migrate towards the humans because that's where they find their food. It's easy to find food around people. So if they're not here on our golf course, they're just going to be in the campgrounds and in town. I mean, it's not like they're going to go away just because you need to get rid of your golf course, like that's a big argument people keep coming to me with. And I don't think they realize that the javelina will be here regardless. They'll just be harassing other people instead of golfers.
Right. Right. Well, the video reached, as I mentioned earlier, at least when I checked yesterday, was at 33 million. Kind of walk us through what's eventually. I know that the hoopla died down. I know you guys did a lot of media. Was that new to you, doing that sort of stuff when the local papers and the local television stations and all that came calling? What was that experience like?
Different. I've never done that before. And honestly, it kind of goes in waves. Like even I just did the CBS station in Phoenix came up yesterday and we took it out and talked with them, and CNN called on Thursday of last week. So like just kind of like keeps going up and down, and then I don't know, I mean it keeps everyone's attention. I'm not really sure why, but I'm kind of glad Dave did, our general manager did a lot of the interviewing. So I don't have time for that, to be honest with you.
Well, it's been a real challenge carving out time. I mean, yesterday, Emily did a great job, but that probably, took up about 3.5 hours. Yeah. Very few golf courses are overstaffed. Usually find a way to get by every day, and we're no different, right? I mean, we run what I would call a fairly lean crew with high expectations. We have contractors here on site. We're still kind of finishing up our 2023 renovations. Thankfully, maybe in 2 weeks, we'll have that buttoned up for the year, but it's not just a regular take care of the course. So we're trying to, I think you've probably heard on within other interviews, but each day we haven't, when it first started, they would, damage and we would repair. And then once it got to the point where we just couldn't keep up, we kind of gave them the rough areas, and we repair approaches and fairways every day. The fortunate thing for us, different than elk working up at my last club in Flagstaff, they have not messed with any greens. They don't mess with any bunkers. And we're in the middle of a tee renovation. So we're increasing basically the tees are changing turf types and they're becoming a sand-based tee top. Okay. They have not messed with the tees. So our 3 most critical areas are still intact, good to go, and we just are waiting for a real drop in temperatures, maybe drive those earthworms down a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Well, you have so I may have misspoke when I said the hoopla's over, because it sounds like it's ongoing. Maybe catch us up on what has taken place since the story broke. And I saw most recently, we were talking a little bit earlier before we started recording about this, but that you had done, you did another video of yourself basically setting up some traps. So it sounds like you got some permission from the state to trap and relocate some of them. So what's kind of occurred since the story first blew up between then and now?
Well, actually, yesterday was the most exciting day I think I've had in months, because we finished the trap and the door works now. And we've been trying to bait them into it just to kind of get them comfortable. Game and Fish told us to like get them comfortable coming into the trap so that they don't freak out if we close the door, and then they'll be able to come and relocate them. But last night was the first time they've gone into the trap and like eaten the bait. So that was pretty exciting. And then we just put a bunch of watermelon in there today and dog food. But yeah, I mean, Game and Fish said once we corral a good handful, I don't really know how many we're going to be able to get, but I'll be out there pulling the cord to drop the door down. Then they'll come get them and take them somewhere else. And they rehome them all the time. So everyone that's freaking out about us moving them around and thinks they're going to die, they're not. Like they will adjust to their new habitat just like they do every year when they migrate around.
Yeah, it sounds like they move on their own enough. It would just be, they get a free ride this time. They don't have to walk. So
we even had one member a couple weeks ago reach out, and she said, "Oh, sorry you're going through that on the course. If you want to relocate them to our property, feel free to." But they have a beautiful property just, I don't know, a mile and a half outside the gate. That's not far enough. So Game and Fish, I think it's by law, can take them up to 15 miles away. So we're shooting for 14.9. Get that.
Is there a radius for travel is typically 1 to 3 miles? Like that's how far they'll go from like their home. So if you can get them that far away, they won't come back. But another herd could just infiltrate their old habitat, and then we'll just do the same thing all over again.
Sure. Well, this is kind of a big picture question, and since you're still in the midst of it, because as you mentioned, the weather really hasn't changed, so their food source remains there, and they're still a problem. But how will you look back on this experience? And are there lessons learned? Have you had other superintendents or colleagues reach out and just kind of pick your brain about how to, because I don't know this is necessarily crisis communication. I'm sure at the time it seemed that way, but you guys have probably been through something that not a lot of maintenance teams will have a chance to go through. So how do you think you'll look back on all this, and maybe you'll look back fondly because you'll get more next year or less. I don't, who knows, but yeah, just what do you think your memories are going to be of this whole crazy?
I mean, I think I definitely have to remind myself that everybody has their challenges on their golf courses. Like in Texas, they have boars. They do the same thing. They root around just like the javelina do. Difference is they can do something about it, and we really can't. But I think, our crew's morale was pretty low for a while because, they're just doing the same thing over and over again, just turf back over, green side up every single day. And I think like, if it really taught me anything, it's that like we have to really like show the crew that we appreciate them and work with them throughout the whole process, like be down in the mud with them, fixing it with them, because I know it's miserable and I know it sucks. But if we all work together, it's really not as bad, and you can kind of have fun with it.
It's been funny. We'll never forget it, right? It's brought a lot of kind of new relationships among our members, a few good laughs, a few people are wondering why we haven't done more faster. We had people we did have rubber rounds, 12 gauge rubber rounds, non-lethal, approved by Game and Fish. But again, right about the time we were starting to strategize with that, this video went viral. So let's take a time out. Let's think about that. Let's think about our reputation. We want to make sure our owners, members were good. So I'm kind of glad we didn't do that, because in the end, Game and Fish said, yeah, that probably wouldn't have really, resulted in any positive direction there. So we have those rounds here if we need to, but we're trying to talk them, trying to convince them into coming into these corral traps. We've got one area. I think we might build 2 more if we can get one group kind of captured. And then very quickly, the game management unit officer for this area, he'll roll in with the horse trailer and he'll get out of here. So, I've never seen anything like that. It could be 10 of them, it could be 20. And this corral trap is only about 350 square feet. So it is going to be interesting once Emily's in there to pull the cord and drop that cord.
Do you have to spend the night there and just wait for him?
So I think honestly, probably, but I think the bigger thing is going to be making sure they don't escape all night.
Yeah.
Right.
Like staying there throughout. If you capture them at night, then what? Then I just pitch a tent all night and hope they don't dig their way out. Like,
And did you have to go to did you have to Google like javelina trap? How did you because that was quite an effort. Your video was really good. It looked like you really, and you did a lot of the effects and stuff to speed up the construction. But
I mean, yeah. So like anything else, right? I mean, we've got 300 or 400 people with ideas. Oh, at my house, I sprinkled this or sprayed that or did this. Well, yeah, that's a 500 square foot patch of turf.
right.
That doesn't work here. So we appreciate it. Somebody, I mean, there's a lot of smart people out there and people with experience too, but most of what we've done has been based on Officer Lee. He has 51 years with Arizona Game and Fish.
Oh, wow.
And he's fearless. Crawls under back patios and pulls skunks out of drain pipes. And he even did this with a group at Javelina not long ago, where he's face to face with these things. And so we got some good pointers from him. We had our own little engineering ideas. We had to make it fit. One place we wanted to put it was real sandy soil, too soft. So it's not just a little cage with T-posts. It's got, comes in 2 feet, and then those we made our own little J hooks to pound on the ground.
they're in my video.
Yeah, so we wanted to do a redirection chute that kind of comes in that might buy us a little bit of time for whatever reason to run out of the bushes and close everything off.
Oh, I got a rope. I don't need to run anywhere. I'm not trying to be that close to it.
Well, you'll be in your tent too, so that'll be right there. So.
Very safe.
We'd rather move them into a morning feeding time, so we'll see if we can do that. We're yeah. I think our bedtime is a little bit earlier than most people, so
Yeah. But then I'm just gonna have 10, 15 javelina that I have to feed until they come get taken away.
yeah.
My little petting zoo.
Well, don't become attached and name them or anything.
Oh, don't worry, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
They're not great.
Yeah.
Well, a crazy story, and I just from someone curious from afar, and then who's now gotten to meet you both and chat a little bit. I think you guys are doing a great job. I mean, you're really looking at this challenge the right way, and it's the way a lot of superintendents would. But as I mentioned, I don't want you two to become known as just the javelina superintendents. There's a lot more going on than just that. So let's take a quick break here in our podcast, and we'll come back and we'll talk on maybe some non-javelina stuff. Although I'm thinking about a facility tour during the conference and trade show in Phoenix, where we bus people up there to tour the property and just look at the javelina stuff. So just mull that over while we get. Emily looks really excited about that idea. So we will be right back and talk more with Andy Huber and Emily Casey from Seven Canyons Golf Club right after this. We'll get back to this episode in a minute, but now a word from Enview, which is committed to working with golf course superintendents to accomplish great things on the course every day. The company has the expertise and innovative solutions to help you meet the challenges of keeping your course beautiful and playable, even when it starts to cool down. You can minimize this winter's snow mold and cool season turf if you know what steps to take before winter sets in. To maximize control in high pressure areas, do a primer application of a DMI such as Densacor fungicide 2 or more weeks prior to your final application. Apply StressGuard brand fungicides to boost spring turf quality while you control snow mold. And if POA annual is a problem, add Proxy growth regulator to your tank mix to limit seed head production next spring. Pythium root rot comes to life in Bermuda grass greens when the wet, cool conditions of fall and early winter set in. But you still have time to get the upper hand with preventative fungicide applications on 17 to 21 day intervals. You can protect against Pythium and nematodes at the same time with a tank mix of 3 key products: Signature Extra StressGuard fungicide to boost turf quality, Banal fungicide for superior Pythium control, and Indemnify insecticide for strong nematode control and improved root growth. It's also time to get proactive about protecting your roots against soil-borne pathogens and nematodes with Recilia Root Health Solution, the first of its kind all-in-one solution from Enview. There's also still time to stock up and save for 2024 with the Fall Solutions program through the improved My Enview Rewards program. Now through December 4th, you'll get multiple ways to save on the products you depend on to master your course and keep it beautiful all year long. Log in or join to start saving today at rewards.enview.us. To learn more about the agronomic solutions that can help you keep troublesome diseases out of your turf, contact your Enview representative or go to us.enview.com/golf. Always read and follow label instructions, and remember that not all products are registered in all states. Once again, our thanks to everyone at Enview for their support of the GCSA podcast. And now let's get back to this episode. All right, we are back. Thanks for sticking with us with Andy Huber and Emily Casey from Seven Canyons in Sedona, Arizona. You may know, and we were joking about this when we were off not recording, but I didn't want them to become known as the Javelina superintendents, which is not entirely under my control. So don't hold me to that. But for both of you, there's obviously a lot more to your careers, to your jobs there than just what you're dealing with. So I wanted to just kind of give you an opportunity to chat a little bit and kind of update us about how you got to where you are now. And Emily, I'll start with you ladies first. And just, where did you grow up? You mentioned to me earlier it was out east, but where did you grow up and how did you get interested in a career in golf?
This is kind of like my second or third career, actually.
Yeah.
I'm from Cornelius, North Carolina, so just north of Charlotte, the Lake Norman area.
Okay.
Went to Appalachian State. I've got 4 business degrees from there. My fiance Lee and I owned a business in Wisconsin with my parents shortly after college. We bought a franchise of a company, moved up there to Milwaukee. We ran it for 5 years and sold it in October of 2020. It was a commercial disinfection company, so like COVID kind of beneficial to us.
Yeah.
But it was pretty similar to a golf course. I mean, we ran a crew of people. We had work vehicles, and we had 10 to 15 people running around the state of Wisconsin that we were chasing around. So golf course is a little easier, smaller property. But when we sold it, we moved across the country to Arizona, didn't have a plan or anything, and just needed some income. So my fiance got a job at Pine Canyon, Andy's old course, but right after Andy left there. And I was looking to buy a CrossFit gym, but some things just didn't work out well, and I just needed a job. So I got a job breaking bunkers at Pine Canyon as well. And within probably the first 6 months, the superintendent, Josh, asked if I wanted to do this as a career. And I kind of laughed. It's like, break bunkers as a career? Not really. They talked to me about Penn State, and I started there and was at Pine Canyon for another probably year. And then I came down here last August and met with Andy. I'd heard a lot about him, but I'd never met him. We were kind of like 2 ships passing in the night at Pine Canyon. Came down here and now I'm just following Andy around, annoying him all day.
Well, you were still living in Flagstaff or in that area, is that correct?
Yeah, we live up there.
Well, Andy hasn't the other video that I don't know if I guess we can say it's gone viral. That's the first time I was aware of you, because I saw your video of your drive one day from Flagstaff to the golf course to work, and there was snow on the ground in Flagstaff. For people who haven't seen it, maybe I can get you to share that video, and we'll put it on the YouTube version right here. But you make the drive, there's snow on the ground in Flagstaff, and you're mowing turf in there. How many views did that thing get?
I mean, that was probably the most exciting thing I had on social media. It was like 300,000 views, which I thought was crazy at the time. But yeah, I mean, we got like 2 or 3 feet of snow in Flagstaff and then drove down here and it was beautiful. So, but yeah, that video, I thought that was viral, but it
was that a springtime? What time of year was that when you recorded that?
It was January,
probably
Okay.
February.
So you were still nice down in Sedona, but yeah, I'm not going to take us too far off kilter here, but I heard, just to put the 33 million into perspective, I should have said this first time. I happened to be listening or seeing something, and there was Barstool Golf was referencing one of their videos, their highly produced videos, and they were going crazy because that thing had 7 million views, and I'm like, Well, the thing that Emily did in 30 seconds got how many multitudes of that. So just to put in perspective how insane 33 million views is for that video. So,
Yeah,
all right, enough about that. I don't want you to be the Javelina superintendent. Andy, Andy, are you a Arizona native? How did you get into the business and kind of get to where you are now?
So I am right at this point in my life. I'm from Indiana, but I have lived in Arizona for 23 years. So I moved to Prescott, first job out of college, went to Purdue in January of 2000. So I've spent the exact same amount of time in my life in Arizona that I have everywhere else combined. So my wife is a fourth generation Prescott born, and so she's definitely native Arizona, but I couldn't call myself that yet, but the state has grown a lot since I've even it's a great state. It's beautiful, huge variety. I mean, you could be from Scottsdale to Flagstaff and in 2 hours. And that was a challenge with our members. I mean, they were members at the high-end clubs up Pima Road Corridor in Scottsdale, and they'd show up at Pine Canyon in first part of April and what the heck is wrong with this place, but yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of like California, huge elevation differences, and cool season turf and warm season turf just within sometimes within 30 minutes of each other.
Oak Creek.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, from Indiana, and really have enjoyed. Worked in Massachusetts and Colorado, and then Troon Golf had me for short stints over in Portugal and Anguilla in the British West Indies. But Arizona's been home. It's been great. So trying to knock out every good town in this state, but we don't want to keep moving. So we're happy in Flagstaff right now.
Well, that is awesome. As I mentioned, you are a chapter delegate representing the Cactus and Pine chapter. How did you get involved in industry service? Have you done officer stints with the chapter? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, so I think it was 2013 through 2017. I was on the Cactus and Pine board, and then eventually, treasurer and vice president and president, past president. But those were the last couple times that I was a chapter delegate in Lawrence. So when Ernie Pock, current president, Cactus and Pine, reached out to me late summer, early fall, and asked if I would be the chapter delegate, I was a little surprised. But I think pretty much everybody currently on our board, they're all at desert courses. And so, you've got a 3 to 3.5 week, it's an intense window there to get your course prepped, overseeded, and reopened. And so I felt I was honored to be asked. And then I thought, yeah, sure. We don't have anything going on around here. I'll go be the chapter delegate. So, but no, I was happy to help them out, and it's a great meeting. Just to see, guys and gals from all over the country fly in from every chapter, and really well run, and learn something new every time I go.
Yeah. Well, Lawrence is a perfectly awesome college town. It's not particularly remote, although it's about an hour from the Kansas City airport. I live in the Kansas City area. It's about a 35-minute drive from me. We love having members in. It's an awesome experience. Doesn't happen enough. And then this year we were fortunate enough to have the chapter delegates, and then 2 weeks later, so there was, I think, 89 chapter delegates who traveled in. And then we also have, as you're aware, all of our remote employees, our field staff, people like that got to come in too. So it's a kind of an old home week for us. And then we got to do it again with the Women's Leadership Academy. Not quite as big, but we had 40 participants in that. That was an awesome experience as well. So we're bleeding right from that into prep to come down your way for the conference and trade show come January and one day in February, I guess. So tell us a little bit about Seven Canyons. I mean, we kind of went over this in the first half, but member owned private club there in Sedona. When you were looking at the property and making the move, what caught your attention about it, Andy?
Well, I mean, I had been up here probably in 03 and 04 for some Cactus and Pine meetings. And, so this property, like a lot of them in Arizona, I mean, a lot of courses were built from, 98 to 05. And this one was, I believe, opened in 02. But Tom Weiskopf designed one of his favorite properties in the whole world. I think he called it his second favorite one, but absolutely beautiful, pretty tight course, and not a lot of real estate within here. All the real estate is sold. So it's not, developer driven or anything. That can be challenging. And sometimes I think the focus kind of gets away from what we do and agronomy and great course conditions when that's kind of driving things. And so that was attractive, not as many homes. We, with all the course renovations, working with Phil Smith, and Phil Smith worked with Tom Weiskopf for many years. So really enjoyed getting to know Phil and working with him. And so, but we've done a complete irrigation renovation. We built a new nursery complex, which has to be the biggest one in northern Arizona. We went big on that. I think we have 8 turf types in there. Well, if you count all different bent grasses, but we've got
9 if you count the different beds.
Yeah. So, but identifying, a beautiful property, amazing start, had a lot of very difficult years from probably 09 through 22, 21, like a lot of properties did. But that was a long, tough stretch. It was open to the public for times. And it's really not a property that's set up that great for that. We are partnered with the Enchantment Resort, which is a very high-end property just a couple miles down the road. So, I mean, people, like I said before, they come from all over the world to stay at Enchantment, to hike. The hikes around this area are unbelievable. And most of them look right down on the golf course. So that's it. We are a private club. We are not sold out yet, but we sold the most memberships in the property's history this year. And so a lot of things are going well there. But working with Phil Smith, we did, the nursery complex. There was, over the course of the years of development, the golf shop moved a couple times. Pretty normal. Seen that before in other Arizona properties I've worked. But in the process, they lost 2 different practice greens and never replaced those. So we found an area. Our team knocked down 100 trees, worked with Phil, shared a couple of sketches, and we now have a beautiful short game facility that's tucked right kind of in the heart of where 4 golf holes come together. So that's new putting and chipping. We're working on a design for a turn house there. So because of that, we actually flipped the 9s in July when the short game area opened. And one interesting note, when Phil was up for one of his visits last year, we told him that we were planning to flip the 9s, and he flipped to the back of an old black binder that Tom Weiskopf and he worked together, and he said, "Look at this right here. This was the original turn house and putting green location, and that was supposed to be number 1." So as the club went through different periods of its development and some tough years and whatever, it was rerouted maybe 4 times. I think we're on our 5th routing, but this is the first time that it's ever been routed the original way that Tom Weiskopf wanted it. So kind of a neat story right there.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you're putting some finishing touches on the renovations. There's a couple things, hopefully wrap it up in the next few weeks. Emily, have you, I'm sure you had a hand in some of that renovation and got to experience that. Had you experienced anything like that before? What was that like for you?
Oh, no, definitely not done any of that before. Andy really trusted me a lot with growing in the short game greens. We seeded the first one together, and then I did the second one by myself the next day. And Andy kind of coached me through like the grow in process. And then shortly after we opened that up, we started with the tee renovation, which is also bent grass. So similar process. And I tweaked it a little bit. And I don't know, it's been really cool to kind of have the autonomy to make decisions on the tees or the greens, but also have Andy like kind of in my back pocket. So I can always say like, what do you think about this? Is this a bad idea? Will you come look at this? Like,
Yeah.
so I've never done it before. So it's definitely been really neat to get to do something different. And I never realized how much I enjoy watching grass grow until the first green germinated. And it was probably the most exciting day of my life. So
Well, how much did you do how much work was done in-house? Did you bring in any folks from outside to help with that process?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to. We started this process when I interviewed. You come in and you're going, what a great property, but it is aging. It's 20, 21, 22 years old, and an irrigation system, for example, in Arizona, there aren't many days to rest, and so pump station replacement,
wells,
controllers. We had well issues, major well issues.
Our wells went down for a while. We were trucking in water.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so just a long list, but the new owners were real excited because they had seen the challenges and the rough years on a great property, and they're not going anywhere. They live inside the gates. They're members here, so it's a very interesting dynamic. I mean, they can pop in and they often do right in our office without any notice.
Yeah,
we're about to go home.
Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. It's a very intimate kind of club and community. And we've done some amazing things in the last year. I mean, we started last Thanksgiving and we have burned through project after project, and it just hasn't stopped. So we are running out of our growing window for the tea renovation. So we're going to hit the pause button there and then pick it up on about April 5th. We've got kind of a re-grand opening scheduled next year. And so we got to work around a lot of golf course raiders and things like that. But this property is in a great position to be highly ranked in the state, and we fully expect to do that. That's our goal, is to move up.
Well, that's great. And you guys were talking about your crew with the damage from the Javelinas, and then to know that they probably balanced a lot of work with this renovation on there. What would you guys say about the people that work for you?
No one can afford to live in Sedona, right? So we have 4 people on our team that drive down from Flagstaff. Most of our crew lives in Cottonwood. The village of Oak Creek is kind of connected to Sedona, so very expensive area. And we were just saying, hey, listen, we got to coach these Javelina into starting to get, be hungry in the mornings, because, at Pine Canyon, we did an evening elk watch, right? So that was 90 minutes leading up to dusk. Everyone lived within 20 minutes of the club. Here, no one lives within 25 minutes of the club. So, we come from literally all directions to show up to work, and it was fun to kind of build a team from scratch. So that's been a challenge, but really fun to kind of see come together. And really, we've got a good team, and we've tried to do a few extra things here and there for them. Working with the food and beverage team, they drum up some warm burritos for the crew that we can get them out of the course and then hand deliver those. So little things that help like that kind of keeps them going.
Well, you guys are super lucky to have, a crew like that. And every course is having challenges with labor. Obviously, I'm not breaking any news with that. And with your location, as you mentioned, it's another element you have to deal with. But from what we've seen from Emily's work and everything else that we've talked about today, you guys sound like you're pretty lucky there. So, well, listen, you guys, I really do appreciate you taking the time. We kind of talked through this, Andy and I, a little bit when it was in the heart of everything, and we just by pure chance were able to connect right there face to face. So I know what you guys have been going through. You really do deserve some kudos, not only for the hard work you're doing to keep the course up, but for just keeping juggling all these other balls that have come your way because of social media and whatnot. So a few fun things to wrap up here. Just our final shots here. You kind of hinted at this with the CrossFit, Em. I don't know if it's your favorite thing, but what do you like to do away from the job? Emily?
I was a big CrossFitter for a long time, but I weightlift, so I'm a big trail runner. Take the dog on a lot of trail runs. I fix my Jeep a lot. That's a YouTube mechanic. I mountain bike, I road bike. Pretty much I'm outside all the time. That's about it.
Awesome. Perfect part of the world to do that. Andy, how about you?
I like to hike the Grand Canyon with some friends from Prescott, friends and family. We like to boat at Lake Powell any chance we get. And that's one of those get the crew out of here early on a Friday, and cell phones don't work, and we'll see you Monday.
Good luck, Emily. You got it.
Yeah, thanks to people like Emily. She does a great job. And I want to circle back on the tee renovation a little bit. I knew that Emily would do a great job because she's very detail oriented, and I knew she would not let it slip or fail. And those have been more difficult to grow in than the greens, but really fun to watch grow in. And if it all goes well, I mean, I think we'll only be the second property in the state of Arizona with bent grass tees.
Wow.
Bent grass loves this property, and if it goes well, we're going to keep going on approaches and then just keep knocking that out. The more bent grass in this property, we think, the better.
That's awesome, and I didn't realize it was such a rarity. So just another reason for people to visit Sedona and come by and say hi to you. So these might be the same things that you just mentioned, but what are the best parts about living in Arizona?
Oh man, I mean, you can drive 2 hours in any direction and you're in a completely different place, which is really cool. I mean, there's so many trails. The Grand Canyon is why I moved out here to begin with. I mean, there's just everything outdoors that you could ever imagine is here. Got your hiking, your biking, your running, it's everything. That's why I moved here, was for all of that. And golf, I guess. You got that too. A couple courses.
Yeah.
Yep. A few of those.
Just a lot of opportunity. I mean, my plan was to move back to Colorado after college, and Sean McHugh, who is still at the country club at Castle Pines,
right,
put me in touch with one of his former Penn State classmates, and that's how I wound up at Prescott Lakes for finishing construction there. I'd never even been to Arizona, and interviewed at the GIS in New Orleans. I think that would have been early 2000, 2000, graduated December 99. And I was out here about a week later, and it's a great place to live and huge variety. Just, plenty to do and see. And it's just been a really good place to raise a family.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if I'm imagining you probably pick up a club now and again and play, but bucket list golf course to play that you haven't had a chance to do to play yet.
I'm not a great golfer. I mostly do this for the aesthetic because I like to make things look perfect and look really nice. I'm not a big desert golf person. I don't really like the hard lines and angles. I like the more natural look. So Bandon is definitely top of my list. Honestly, I would just go walk the course or go for a run there, and I would be just perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say probably Pinehurst. I haven't been there, and there's a lot of golf just on that property alone. So Emily and I really like kind of the everything in Arizona. She just mentioned on it. It's kind of the image of the state. Golf in this state is trimmed edges, edged bunkers. Everything is, post overseed, fall overseed. But, there's a lot of other softer touches you can have out there, and we're trying to incorporate that a little bit around here. And it's tough. I mean, a lot of members expect that everything clean and edged, and we are pushing the limits a little bit with some fescue blends behind bunkers and on the edges. And those who have a little bit of an imagination, they see what we're doing. So that's been fun too.
Well, you can, when the U.S. Open comes to Pinehurst #2 in June, you'll have a captive audience, and you can show them how cool that kind of treatment looks. Although obviously #2 is the kind of the extreme version of what you guys might be trying there. So, and finally, I'll ask you: are you excited to have a home game for the conference and trade show? GCSA is coming to. I say coming to town, but 2 hours from you. But we're excited to be in Arizona. You guys will be. I'm hoping we'll see you guys in Phoenix.
Absolutely,
we'll be there. I think it'll be cool. A lot of my friends from different tournaments I've worked will be in town, so it'll be cool to get to catch up with them and hopefully get a few people up here to come check out our course and what all we've done over the last, by then, almost 2 years.
Yeah. But there's no way I can walk the floor with Emily. I'll never get anything done. So she is going to have a crowd around her for sure. You guys might want to reschedule something for that.
Yeah. Even before the video, I bet she would have had a huge crowd. And now we may have to do a whole session with just you and talking about social media and how to survive going viral. Because
that was people were pretty mean. I'm not going to lie. I got called a lot of interesting names.
Yeah, and we were following along, and you could just, and unfortunately, those things have a lifespan, and you can almost predict. I think I was talking with Mike Strauss. Andy met Mike Strauss, our media relations manager, and as this thing was taking off, and when we saw it picked up by certain kind of international outlets, and really they were just sort of redoing what Golf Digest. That might have been. I keep referencing that just because that was the first one that I saw. But I think when I saw it in the Guardian, I went to Mike. I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna, as cool as this is, we'll have to keep an eye on it because it'll with that kind of exposure, it could go in any direction.
The difference is that we appreciate how you guys have followed up and you have you've sought out the facts. So you guys haven't missed anything. We can't say that for everyone else. They just kind of grab some stuff, but
most of the major outlets, they followed the story correctly and talked to us. But the Guardian, Vox, whatever, those ones, it was just those ones.
Yeah, they're just so many of those just aggregate news now, and so they pick up whatever they see a tweet, and because it's a public forum, that they can build that into some sort of story for easy clicks. And there's the problem is half of what was out there was probably that. Half of it is what I'm sure your local media did a little bit better job of actually talking to you about it and getting more in depth on the facts. And obviously that's what we've tried to do. And when it took off, we were like, there's actually two stories here, not only just the what you deal with the Javelinas, but what Emily was going through and going viral in a way that very few in this industry have. So it was quite a story. So
there's a couple of tears, but got over it. I mean, I was gonna expect people to be so mean just because I posted a video, but I mean, at the end of the day, people talk, and
they do. And for the most part, I think you probably understand those people are your colleagues in this business, and they just understand what, whether they've had animal damage or not. Everyone's had some sort of challenge, whether it's been a storm or a fire or something. And so there's the ability just to kind of, sympathize with you from a superintendent standpoint. And that was my favorite part of it, was the initial comments seemed to be that. And you were having dialogue with people, and you probably didn't even know where they were from. They could have been from anywhere in the
I mean, it was cool. Dr. McGraw from Penn State, he was one of my professors. He offered up his wisdom, and I mean, it was cool to talk to people from around the country that had some sort of idea or even just a question. Yeah. Once it took to the other side of Twitter, that's when I was like, okay, I'm done talking to everyone. Well,
you will not soon forget the stretch of 2023. I'm even if and when the Javelinas come back next fall, and maybe you set up different kinds of cameras to track them at night, so you don't have to sleep in the tent. But
you won't see any social media posting from me. I don't have to, but I guarantee you there will be more from Emily, and so who knows?
There will definitely be more from me.
Yeah,
more driving videos. People love the driving videos.
Oh, so they love that.
keep doing those. So, well, listen, you guys, I appreciate it. I enjoyed chatting with you and kind of giving you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about this and get in depth at the ways that you can't in other media. So hang in there. We're all looking forward to getting down your way, and I'll be down a little bit earlier than most because I do work our golf tournaments. So if I can squeeze a few hours, I'll come out and pay you guys a visit. Sounds like I'm a mountain guy myself, even though I live in the middle of Kansas. But love doing that stuff. So I'll get a chance to come out and see you. So it's Andy Huber, Emily Casey, Seven Canyons. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Scott. Take care.
Well, that puts a wrap on episode 57 of the GCSAA podcast. My thanks once again to Emily Casey and Andy Huber from Seven Canyons Golf Club for joining us to talk about Javelinas, life in the social media spotlight, and what has been a pretty crazy stretch for everyone down there in Sedona, Arizona. Looking forward to catching up with both of them again when GCSAA heads to Arizona in January for our conference and trade show in Phoenix. As always, lots on the horizon for future episodes of the podcast, including a couple of live recordings of this and other superintendent-hosted podcasts on the GCSAA podcast stage. during our time in Phoenix. For now, though, we'll say goodbye with a thank you to our podcast editor, Evan Shapiro, to everyone at NView for their ongoing sponsorship of the podcast, to the GCSAA Board of Directors, and all my coworkers at Association headquarters in Lawrence, Kansas. And of course, my thanks to each of you for subscribing, downloading, and listening. Till next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch up again real soon on the next episode of the GCSAA podcast.